Welcome back to the Reality Railroad RailPro installation part 2, wiring the base of the locomotive. Okay, so now we have all our electronics removed. We have packaged, boxed up, ready to go to whoever the new owner will be. I'm going to start our new LED warm glow light installation. Now that all of our pieces are apart, it's very easy to dive right back in. Once you do stop at this point, this is a good break point so that when you do come back, you know you're switching hats. So what we're going to do is start our install, which is, these are warm glow. These have resistors already on them, as you can see. So I don't have to solder that part on. I will have to make all the holes larger. So I'll drill this out. And then you can bend it in. And then what we're going to do is use their same original concept with the wiring. You can see they have notches to hold the wires in position. You can glue this here if you want to. It's not necessary because the screws hold it down into position. And that fits right back on in there, no problems. We have our screws ready to go. Mine are magnetized, but still, they're so small that it's very much more helpful to hold them and put them in place. Oh, I didn't tell you, this was a 5mm LED light, so you're going to need to know that. Again, warm glow. The reason why I go warm glow is this engine was done in 70s and 80s. The lights weren't what they are today, and technology doesn't really go into the trains that well. So it was an older glow. The lights were older. I know that some of them have halogens in them, but I don't want to see that when I'm going down my train track at night. So we're going to go ahead and start putting the cab back together with that. So our light is together. Our first light is in there. And what we're going to do is just basically drop it right down in there. Oops. With the wire, of course, on the inside. Sorry about that. Okay. Now, this is a great point. It's not necessary, but it's fun to do. People can switch out the gears here, or this little flat portion. This is when you can put lights in those and tie them in with your cab lighting. That is an option. Not necessary, but it is something you can do. So, we're going to slide this back in. And then grab the other side. And that should all go right back together without any problems. And there you go. Your cab is back together now. So what I'm doing is making sure that the pins are locked in position. I'm going to drop my cover for the light back on. Again, into its fixated position. And now our cab body should be all fully assembled. Oops. Something's blocking here in the way. Oh. Those little springs, those little buggers. Take it apart and put that one back together later on. So we want it on the inside, not on the side. Okay, I'll deal with that one later. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to switch here. Back to our fuel tank. Now this is very important because you need to understand that the bigger hole, I believe, is in the front of the engine. Yes, it is. So our bigger notch for the hole is in the front. The smaller hole is in the back. The reason why I bring that up is because our position of our switches and charging port is is a necessity. It needs to only be in the front. It doesn't work in the back because there's a fuel tank there or air compression tank there, so the switches won't work. They'll be in the way. And then the turning radius of the trucks as well. So we have today an FR7 speaker by Visiton, which is a popular fan favorite. And we have our basic on-off power switching with charge port and cables that you can find here at our Reality Railroad shop, or also RLD Hobbies. They stock them readily available. And one of the quick little things that we have here is a speaker plate. It's not necessary, but it is available. Again, it just comes down to time. Everything comes down to time. And one of the things that we do for speed is use this plate. All the holes are already aligned for exactly for the USA Trains fuel tank, so we can use them. It makes it easier for us. I'm just going to take my little box of screws out here. Have that ready. And again, these things are so tiny, it's hard for me to get them in the holes here. And again, this is not necessary. You don't have to use these. You can use springs, you can use clamps, whichever you prefer. It's up to you entirely. The reason I screw them down instead of glue it down is because sometimes, you know, if you want to change the system out or you want to do something new, you have that ability to do so by just unscrewing the speaker plate versus trying to dig the glue out. That's kind of a no fun experience. And I'm just using these from my little stock here, my stash of screws. This is a flat screw, used actually previously inside of the train to hold down electronics. Okay, so now we got our speaker plate in position. And this is a good time, instead of doing it with it in there already, we can pull our RailPro wiring harness. You can find here, they're sold separately. We stock them here. They're really great to have. The boards are always either available, not available, they're in shipping, or whatever the case may be. By having extra harnesses, you're able to do a whole install and be done before your boards arrive. And so when they do arrive, you can just drop that board in and you're good to go. With RailPro, I know off the top of my head already that the red and the green always is used for the speaker, and so that's the way we're going to wire the train. All of our installations are based off of what the recommendation is from RailPro directly. If you want to use a different color for the speaker, that's entirely up to you. We just kind of stick to the norm, so that way if somebody was to open this engine up, or if it was sold to another person later on, they would immediately be able to identify what the colors are being used for. I have my soldering iron, so I'm quick at the issue here with the install. We're just going to heat up. You can put clamps on, you can do clip clamps, you can do pretty much whatever you want when you do the speaker. I'm heating up the coil. There is a chance if you do it for too long that you can drop the coil inside of the speaker and it will not work. So what we want to do is just heat it up just long enough where we can drip this wire in. And just basically cover that wire. Hold it long enough into position where we have no problems. What this does is saves on costs for your install. It speeds it up. and you get a quality installation. And what I mean by quality is that you're not going to get any better contact than this. But again, some people don't have the confidence maybe or the ability to do that. But again, you don't see me holding the heat soldering iron on there very long at all because, well, we've taken a chance of ruining the speaker. So there you go. Drop that guy in there. You can put it in before or after, but basis of the showing you of what we're doing here, I'm going to leave it out for now. Again, basic common power supply, and we'll make this very quick and easy, and then we're going to take a break. So the switch is always in the opposite direction of the power of what you're trying to do. We want to be mindful of that. So we're going to put the charging port on this side, and then that way when we put the switch in that position, that tells the owner that it's going to be in the charge position. So I just mentioned that, so we want you to be keen to that. We're going to drill a hole based off of the middle of this round cylinder of the gas tank, and then you want to go up closer to the top. And clean up our hole. And he's going to be a little bit bigger. It helps to have all the tools on hand and ready. So you can see how, obviously, if you're not familiar with what you're doing, you could take that speaker out no problem. Dangerous, so if you're not comfortable, leave it out. And there we go. Now, again, we're going to be mindful of the position of the charging port. So it's on this side, so if we want it to be like this. Okay, so we need to rotate that switch. And then lock it into position. This can be troublesome if if you got big fingers like I do. Tools are very, very useful commodities in doing an install. Okay, so what we want is the ability to make sure that it's rocking side to side and not up and down, so that the owner will know that out is to run, middle is off, and over is to charge. We're going to leave it in the off position throughout the install, and the reason for that is if it's on, it can blow the board. So if you have it off, you're good to go. I only do one loop on my wiring because of the speaker, and I'll show you that in a minute. Throw a tie on it real quick, because this is the only wire that will stay inside of the fuel tank. And then we want it to be clean when it's done, of course. Now this is I know for instance that the charging port is actually a little bit larger in diameter. You're looking probably about 1/4 inch. Maybe, I wouldn't go any bigger than that, but again, what we're going to do parallel with the other side so it looks clean when we're done. And I went a little wider with the hole because this particular charging port, I know for a fact, is a little bit wider than most. And so I took all the other items off. This one, you only have room for the actual wing nut on here, or lock nut, whatever you want to call it. Again, I have the wide pliers here. And we've got to be careful, because too tight, not good. You'll pop it right off and break it. Now here's the trick that a lot of people don't know. With this particular thing, you know, made in China, very probably cheap, is we put glue on the inside. And let me tell you why. It's not very Loctite, armor strong, but what it does is it prevents it from turning when you pull it in and out later on. Now we'll just tighten it just a little bit more, and we let it sit and let it dry. And that, once it does dry, and the owner is not going to pick it up for a while, it will allow this port to be rock solid to the actual plastic chain, so it's not going to go anywhere. Unless if you're really wrenching on it, which most people don't do. They like to enjoy their trains. Now we can drop that speaker in. It's already wired. Pull this through. And that can drop down on the side without any issues. You can fasten the speaker down with any method that you like. But we're going to take a break here, and we hope you guys are enjoying the installation so far. Okay, so we got our speaker mounted already on our speaker plate. We got the wires coming out of what we're going to be using here later on. We're going to grab our undercarriage, bring that over, and then we're going to grab these wires and stick it through our main body hole here. So this should be able to drop right back down over the fuel tank, because that's where it's going to go permanently. Everybody can put their boards in wherever they want, however they want. I'm just going to show you what we do and how it works for us. And then you can make a decision if you want to go ahead and do that. But again, time, it works, it's proven, and just keep it going that way. I have a Dremel. You can use a cordless one. I haven't got a cordless one, but this one works just fine. There's a metal cutting disc on there with a pivot rod, I guess you can say. Start it up. It's about going about 15. Okay, so now that's out of the way. And I'll also get into why I did that later on. Electrical tape is a great way to close up one item here. Let me see if I can get this loosened. There we go. And what this does is it basically prevents water and whatnot from coming back into the tank or into the train. And what I'm doing is I'm covering up where the switches were once at that would control the power of the train and lights and whatnot from the factory. And we're not going to be using that, so I'm just closing that off here. So we have a front engine wire. We're going to grab those. On our next list here, we're going to start using the pigtails. Again, I have all this stuff here ready, available, makes it very useful. What you want to do is be mindful. In this case it works, but in not all cases, that when you do buy pigtails, and they come from all places of the world, from all over the place, so be mindful that the black is with the black and the red is with the red. I've haven't done that before my own self, and it's caused problems later on down the road. So as you can see that these line up perfectly. The red is with the red, the black is with the black, but they do ship and sometimes they're not. And that will mess up an install greatly. So that's definitely something to be mindful of. We're going to be positioning everything where I know it's going to go. And what we like to use is either pricey, so be mindful of that. They don't come with a whole lot, and it's about $12 to $15 for a pack. But once you put them on, never have a problem with them. So I know where everything goes, so I'm getting that ready already. We stick them together. Again, with the electrical tape, now that our pigtails are plugged into our engine harnesses. What we want to do is we want to give it enough room so that as that truck turns, it can pull the wire with it. So if you don't have any slack, this can ruin your install. So what we do is we push it to the harness. So we're pushing it back to the back, or towards the front of the train, excuse me. And then we put the wire on, and the tape on the center of the wire, 2 wires. And then what we're going to end up doing is putting that on the side here, in front of this post column, and I'll show you why in a moment. Oops. So again, we want to put the connection in the front, and then have the wires continue onward towards the rear of the train. This will allow the truck to turn without any issues. Now we have the rear truck. Again, we're going to push it up towards the magnets, then have the wire itself go forward. Okay, and we're doing it off to the side. And there we go. Now, I know what size battery is going to go in here, but this entirely up to you. What you do is your choice. But we're peeled down only one side of the Velcro strips, and we're going to go all the way to the wire, allowing the wire to still freely move, but making sure that our engine wires are not in the way, but the tape is secured down onto the train. And then we're doing the same thing. Now these are going to be used for your battery and for your RailPro board later on, and I'll get into that in a moment. So again, we have enough position for the wires to be off to the side, and then the Velcro strips are firmly and completely onto the plastic of the train so that it has one solid surface. That's very key, because then if it doesn't, well, then with the heat and with movement of the train, then it eventually will break off. So you want that as secure as possible and on a flat surface. We're going to leave our vellum on here so that we can still work freely. These engine cords will be going into our RailPro board. Our power mount and our batteries are right here. And now this umbilical cord is what we like to call it for RailPro, is free and clear. I'm just trying to get it on the other side of the wires. It's going to make a liar out of me. There we go. And this is going to go on the opposite side. So again, we have that clean install that we all want. And that will be going into the back of the board here. So now with the bottom and the base of our train completed, and our wiring for the base of the train is done, essentially, until we put in the battery and our board, which will be later on.